Good morning, everyone. As somebody commented, there is a ghost in the machine this morning. Okay. How's everyone? How's everything sounding and looking? We got one report of fuzziness, but let me know how that looks to everyone. Okay, well, that looks like enough reports of things looking good, so I think we'll go ahead and go with it today. I got a notification that software needs updating, but I don't do that like minutes before I go live, so maybe that addressed the bugs in the system. So, all right. Well, how's everyone today? It's feeling like summer here again. We've had a very mild summer, so I could count on my hand the days that I walked outside and thought, it's definitely summer. But today looks like it's going to be one of them. So let's see, Wednesday. Not much going on news-wise, at least not that's come to my attention. So, just the middle of a busy week. So, I got a request early this morning from Mahisha, who is our friend in Sri Lanka, who every day is going through the talks, these morning streams, and cataloging the questions and creating timestamps and helpful links. And he asked if I could speak a little about sense restraint. And also, I kind of was blanking on my ability to, from memory, sort of recall the different summaries for the jhanas. So I thought today we might kind of run through one of the canonical suttas that goes through these things. Clarity of instruction is something just really important. It's easy to get fuzzy-minded about what it is that we're supposed to be doing. And reminders again and again and again. And remembering is very much part of sati, like remembering what is suitable, remembering what it is that one should give attention to. Clarity of purpose and effort is very critical to success in meditation. And even for one long gone forth, it's good to recount again and again. What is it we're trying to do here? And that's especially true in the application, the formal application of meditation. So I thought today we'd look at the section on cultivation in the Dhyana, the long discourses. So the second of those, we mentioned yesterday, the Samana Pala Sutta, or the fruits of samanaship, or the fruits of the ascetic life or holy life, is a encyclopedic, almost exhaustive exploration of why it is that one would take up the holy life or an ascetic life or a concerted full-time effort as a spiritual practitioner, and then it deals with the many aspects of that and the fruits that come from living that sort of correctly. So maybe before I can do that, I just in an effort to learn how to keep up with you all in the chat room here, I'll answer Brandon's question. Does the Pacific Hermitage take on lay students? Not really. That's kind of more a function for it depends what you mean by student. So certainly myself and the other senior monks are here, make ourselves available for consultation, but not over the internet except for YouTube here. It's more if you have the opportunity to come visit or attend gatherings, we're accessible as teachers and guides and Kalyanamitta, spiritual friends. So I don't know that I've formally taken on many people as a lay student. I think of myself more as a cheerleader and a coach and a friend. I suppose I do teach in some way, but I'm a little wary of identifying myself as being a teacher, and there's a more informal opportunity just to draw near Sangha, monks and nuns as teachers and guides and students. But others do kind of formalize those relationships. Me, not so much. So, and if part of your question, Brandon, is about like staying in monasteries, like we don't have a lay guest program in our monastery. Many of the monasteries do, most of them do, especially the ones in the West. And through most of the year, people can go and spend a period of time in practicing in the monastery and getting teachings. So, okay, well, what I thought I'd try to do today, we haven't kind of looked at any suttas, is to take a look at Digha Nikaya 2, and in particular, sort of the section on sense restraint, the hindrances, and then direct people to some of these similes for the states of the jhana. So, I'll just kind of comment as I go along. It's a little bit of a longish read for the morning coffee time stream, but we'll go ahead and give it a try here. This section I just wanted to kind of go over is down after a whole section on ethics in the Sammanapala Sutta. And this is really one of the more concise canonical ways that sense restraint is defined. How does a mendicant guard the sense doors? When a noble disciple sees a sight with their eyes, they don't get caught up in the features and details. If the faculty of sight were left unrestrained, bad, unskillful qualities of desire and aversion would become overwhelming. For this reason, they practice restraint, protecting the faculty of the sight and achieving its restraint. When they hear a sound with the ears, smell an odor with their nose, when they taste a flavor with their tongue, when they feel a touch with their body, when they know a thought with their mind, they don't get caught up in the features and details. If the faculty of the mind were left unrestrained, bad, unskillful qualities of desire and aversion would become overwhelming. For this reason, they practice restraint, protecting the faculty of the mind and achieving its restraint. And when they have this noble sense of restraint, they experience an unsullied bliss inside themselves. That's how a mendicant guards the sense doors. So, I would oftentimes, the concept of sense restraint sort of comes up for discussion, and our mind tends to go to sort of like, well, what is it that I'm not supposed to attend to? And sometimes people want to think about this in a very categorical way. So like I would direct your attention to this word with this kind of thing here. sights and sounds and sense contacts that would become overwhelming. So, Suman, I see your kind of question here. I should have started off with this, but this is Bhante Sujato's translation on suttacentral.net. So, and thanks for prompting me there. So the key word here is sense contact that would become overwhelming. So things that we know are going to cause us to lose our balance or sully the mind in some way, spoil the kind of conditions that are necessary for overcoming the hindrances and these beautiful sort of states of serenity. The teaching on sense restraint sort of underscores other encouragements that the Buddha gives, kind of showing that causes and conditions are important and should not be ignored. Setting the environment, your friends, and what it is that you give your attention to, and rather than give some sort of exhaustive list, one needs to know for oneself, and there's a dynamic kind of quality to sort of knowing, both with memory, but also like in the present moment, sort of like what it is that we give our attention to, how it is that it affects us, and guarding the mind. Again, the Buddha doesn't encourage just choiceless awareness and just giving your attention to anything and everything that enters the sphere of your sense consciousness. So, and in particular, reflect on this word overwhelming. Things that will cause us to lose our balance, things that make us angry, that, that boil the blood, are things that impassion us in ways that causes problems in the mind. So the practice of sense restraint is being judicious about what it is that you attend to, how much you attend to certain things as well, I would say. And that creates the kind of foundation for sort of moving into a sincere and concerted effort to overcome the hindrances. So let's see. So this whole section is called immersion, which is Bhante Sujato's translation for samadhi. It's a beautiful one. From sense restraint, it moves into situational awareness. So this is what one might think of as a concerted and holistic kind of practice of being present as we move through the day, and all the postures, going and coming, looking ahead and aside, bending and extending one's limbs, when bearing the outer robe, bowl and robes, when eating, drinking, chewing, tasting, urinating, defecating, walking, standing, sitting, sleeping, waking, speaking, and keeping silent. That's how a mendicant has mindfulness and situational awareness. So these are his translations for sati sampajanya, and we've talked a bit about that. So it is a sincere, holistic, concerted effort to stay present and connected to one's kind of present moment experience, like even when speaking, which can be difficult. Speaking kind of takes us into the abstractions of thought, past and future. So moving on to that, establishing contentment. How's a mendicant content? He's content with robes to look after the body and alms food to look after the belly. Wherever they go, they set out taking only these things, like they're a bird. Wherever it flies, wings are its only burden. In the same way, a mendicant is content with robes to look after the body and alms food to look after the belly. So a light, simple living, and content with the requisites of life. Now moving on to the hindrances. So these are Ajahn Sona referred to, and I think it was talk 2. So just and those similes of what it feels like to be free of the hindrances. So, there's instructions here on having prepared the mind through good ethics, through sense restraint, through contentment, and then going off to meditation. They frequent a secluded lodging, a wilderness, the root of a tree, a hill, a ravine, a mountain cave, a charnel ground, a forest, the open air, a heap of straw. After the meal, they return from their alms round, sit down cross-legged with their body straight, and establish mindfulness right there. So again, set and setting, the environment makes a difference. They don't just sit down in the middle of the village. They go find a quiet, suitable place to pursue their meditation. Giving up desire for the world, they meditate with a heart rid of desire, cleansing the mind of desire. Giving up ill will and malevolence, they meditate with a mind rid of ill will, full of compassion for all living beings. Cleansing the mind of ill will. Giving up dullness and drowsiness, they meditate with a mind rid of dullness and drowsiness, perceiving light. Mindful and aware, cleansing the mind of dullness and drowsiness. Giving up restlessness and remorse, they meditate without restlessness. Their mind peaceful inside, cleansing the mind of restlessness and remorse. Giving up doubt, they meditate having gone beyond doubt, not undecided about skillful qualities, cleansing the mind of doubt. And then here are these similes that Ajahn Sona visited in his second talk. Suppose a man had gotten into debt and were to apply himself to work, and his efforts proved successful, he would pay off the original loan and have enough left over to support his partner. Thinking about this, he would be filled with joy and happiness. So there's a recognition that one is free from this typical state of looking for happiness in the world, thinking and desiring comfort and pleasure from the sense realm, which is a debt. So to whatever level our strategies for happiness are bound up with sense pleasure, we're kind of fostering an addiction, which puts us in this kind of debt-like condition. And certainly there are other forms of happiness that most people have, but I would say chief amongst them are finding comfort, pleasure, delight, and experience of the sense realm. So, and that leaves us in this sort of sense of debt. We have the faith and wisdom to know that there's higher forms of happiness. We see the drawbacks of that being such a primary strategy for us. We sit down and free ourselves of that delusion that's a wise strategy for pleasure and happiness, a higher pleasure and happiness. And we're filled with joy with that. Like when you sit down, oftentimes when I sit down, I'm eager to meet the simplicity of the present moment, to not have to see things with my eyes, hear things with my ears, engage in conversation, do yet another thing on my to-do list. It's like, I can just turn inwards to the simplicity of the breath and the present moment. And that thought, and I'll underscore, I don't have a highlighter, but thinking about this, he would be filled with happiness and joy. So, there is a role for discursive thought in meditation, especially more so in setting up the mind in the preliminary stages of meditation, and like checking in on what's going on in the mind, especially where we are with these hindrances, settling any attachments we have and longings we have in this particular case. And then when you realize you're free of that, like delighting, you think about that. You think, I have the opportunity to meditate. And happiness and joy should arise in the mind. Suppose there was a person who was sick and suffering gravely ill. They would lose their appetite and get physically weak. But after some time, they'd recover from that illness and regain their appetite. So this is, again, the simile for the illness of ill will, anger, aversion, frustration. So reflecting on that, thinking that one has freed oneself from ill will, frustration, aversion. They are filled with joy and happiness. Suppose one was a bondservant. This is the wicked boss, or the bad boss. They belonged to someone else and were unable to go where they wish. But after some time, they'd be free from servitude and become their own master, an emancipated individual able to go where they wish. So this is the simile for being freed from dullness. Oh, sorry, I got that mixed up. I skipped over the imprisonment. The imprisonment is the simile for sloth and torpor, dullness, lethargy of mind. So when one has the requisite energy in the mind, that brings a sense of joy and happiness. The bondservant, or the bad boss, is restlessness, always pushing, poking, come here, do this, do that. Being freed from that. And then lastly, suppose there was a person with wealth and property who was traveling along a desert road. So this is the crossroads, which are perilous. And they have nothing to eat. They had to make a choice of what's the right way to go to get to a village. And once they've figured out they've made the right choice, and that they're moving towards sanctuary and safety, joy and happiness. So when these 5 hindrances are given up inside themselves, a mendicant regards this as freedom from debt, good health, release from prison, emancipation, and sanctuary. Seeing that the hindrances have been given up in them, joy springs up. Being joyful, rapture springs up. When the mind is full of rapture, the body becomes tranquil. When the body is tranquil, they feel bliss. And when blissful, the mind becomes immersed. So, something similar happens in reflecting on our virtue and good deeds. And there really is a strong role for exercising the part of mindfulness that is remembering, reflecting, recollecting. And I've had many times in my meditation where things are going kind of well or something, but not really moving very strongly towards a state of joy and happiness. And the thought comes up to review what's going on, what's obstructing the progression towards that. And I might reflect on the hindrances and then just kind of go through and check. And sometimes you'll find, oh, there's a little frustration or agitation here. I'm kind of hating my bodily experience. Or one of the other hindrances is kind of there. Oh, there's subtle restlessness here. And then one could address that. But sometimes in reviewing it, like you realize that the mind is quite free of hindrances, or the hindrances are on the wane, are already fairly well suppressed. And like all you need is that little spark of recognition of being in this beneficial state of being released from the power of the hindrances to spark off this kind of joy and happiness. And sometimes just that kind of reviewing, recollecting, and kind of looking at the mind through the lens of that can support that. So, and then the sutta kind of moves on into the similes for the jhanas, and I might just kind of briefly whip through those today, and then everyone has some homework to come revisit this if they want to. Might be a nice time in the week to kind of revisit this, because I think in the subsequent talks, Ajahn kind of going to go into them, and for people that aren't familiar with them, it's good to kind of start to familiarize yourself with these. I'm assuming most of you have heard these before, probably many times, but still, it's good to review these to get this refresh the instructions and refresh these images and similes in one's mind again and again and again. So free from the hindrances, one moves towards the first absorption. Quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unskillful qualities, they enter and remain in the first absorption, which has rapture born, which has the rapture and bliss born of seclusion. So that's seclusion from, like there is kaya viveka, or seclusion of the body. One has kind of gone off and sought some seclusion, but more importantly, seclusion from these hindrances. So rapture and bliss is born from seclusion, while placing the mind in keeping it connected. So this is Bhante Sujato's language for vitaka vichara, or applied and sustained thought. So placing the mind vitaka, like placing attention on the breath. Vichara, staying connected with the experience of the breath, the present moment experience of the breath. They drench, steep, fill, and spread their body with the rapture and bliss born of seclusion. There is no part of the body that's not spread with rapture and bliss born of seclusion. It's like when a deft bathroom attendant or their apprentice pours bath powder into a bronze dish, sprinkling it little by little with water. They knead it until the ball of the bath powder is soaked and saturated with moisture, spread through the inside and out, yet no moisture oozes out. In the same way, a mendicant drenches, steeps, fills, and spreads their body with rapture and bliss born of seclusion. There is no part of the body that's not spread with rapture and bliss born of seclusion. This great king is a fruit of the ascetic's life that's apparent in the present life, which is better and finer than the former ones. So a higher form of bliss. And for those new to this sutta, it's addressed to a king. So the second absorption, so the second jhana. Furthermore, as the placing of the mind and keeping it connected or stilled, a mendicant enters and remains in the second absorption, which has the rapture and bliss born of immersion, with internal clarity and confidence and unified mind, without applying the mind and keeping it connected. So vitaka vichara fall away in this second immersion, second absorption, because the mind has deepened into a state of serenity and lucidity. In the same way, a mendicant drenches, steeps, fills, and spreads their body with rapture and bliss born of immersion. There's no part of the body that's not spread with rapture and bliss born of immersion. So again, this language is implying there is volition. There's still some activity that's being kind of cultivated here. It might be a very subtle form of volition working here. But a mendicant is drenching, steeping, filling, spreading the rapture and bliss through the body. So there's a refinement, maybe a deepening, a maturation of those qualities of mind. It's like a deep lake fed by spring water. There's no inlet to the east, west, north, or south, and no rainfall to replenish it from time to time. But the stream of cool water welling up in the lake drenches, steeps, fills, and spreads throughout the lake. There's no part of the lake that's not spread with cool water. In the same way, a mendicant drenches, steeps, fills, and spreads their body with rapture and bliss born of immersion. There's no part of the body that's not spread with rapture and bliss born of immersion. This too, great king, is the fruit of the ascetic life that's apparent in the present life, which is better and finer than the former ones. This is a beautiful simile. A deep lake fed by spring water. So there's this welling up, this internal sense of joy, serenity, happiness. It's not coming from the outside. The streams of sense contact, which is normally where we're looking to be fed and where we're looking for coolness and pleasure and nourishment. It's the internal nourishment, coolness, and delight that's welling up from within because we've moved to this interior, immersed connection with the conscious experience of the mind in jhana, or the mind in meditation. The third absorption. Furthermore, with the fading away of rapture, a mendicant enters and remains in the third absorption, where they meditate with equanimity, mindful and aware, personally experiencing the bliss of which the noble ones declare, equanimous and mindful, one meditates in bliss. They drench, steep, fill, and spread their body with the bliss free of rapture. There's no part of the body that's not spread with a bliss free of rapture. It's like a pool with blue water lilies or pink or white lotuses. Some of them sprout and grow in the water without rising above it, thriving underwater. From the tip to the root, they're drenched, steeped, filled, and soaked with cool water. There's no part of them that's not soaked with cool water. In the same way, a mendicant drenches, steeps, fills, and spreads their body with a bliss free of rapture. There's no part of the body that's not spread with a bliss free of rapture. This too, great king, is a fruit of the ascetic life that's apparent in the present life, which is better and finer than the former ones. So notice here, this third state of absorption or immersion is characterized by equanimity and mindfulness. It is still characterized as blissful, but it is free of rapture. So, joy and happiness have sated the mind and done their work, and the mind is able to move towards a more mindful, purified mindfulness that has as its hallmark equanimity. And yet it's still blissful, but it's a more refined sort of bliss. It's free of the bubbly excitement and the energy of rapture. So that is the third absorption. And then lastly, the fourth. Furthermore, giving up pleasure and pain and ending former happiness and sadness, a mendicant enters and remains in the fourth absorption without pleasure or pain, with pure equanimity and mindfulness. It's like someone sitting wrapped from head to foot with a white cloth. There's no part of the body that's not spread over with white cloth. In the same way, they sit spreading their body through with pure, bright mind. There's no part of the body that's not spread with pure, bright mind. This too, great king, is a fruit of the ascetic life that's apparent in the present life, which is better and finer than the former ones. So this is an even more profound experience of equanimity, kind of goes beyond what one would think of as pleasure and pain, happiness and sadness. And we've maybe lost a little bit of the connotation of the white cloth that existed in the culture of the Buddha. Actually, monks are forbidden from wearing white cloth, and one of the reasons why was there's a lot of notions of it being holy or sacred or pure, because it's difficult. It's difficult to make pure anything a pure white, and there was notions around white cloth woven to one's dimensions and size for a robe, uncut, unsewn, completely pure and white, as being somehow especially purified, beautiful. So this is used here for this kind of fourth simile. It's like the mind is complete, is pure as can be, bright, white, pure energy, suffuses the whole body, wraps the whole body. So that is the fourth. Okay, so notice we have some sort of volition going here all the way up to this last one. I think it's a good case that one needs to be a little bit more active in first and second sort of jhana. It starts to become very subtle in what's going on in the third, and then in the fourth. It might be hard to kind of even recognize it as volition at that point, because something so refined is coming, bringing the mind together. So that is the second sutta from the long discourses. The fruits of the ascetic life are in Pali the Samanapala sutta. And that's one place one can turn to get a nice and concise collection of sense restraint. These nice similes connected with the overcoming the hindrances and what it feels like to overcome the hindrances, to be free from them, and how quite naturally, seeing that one is free of those, recognizing that, can be a tremendous source of joy and happiness in one's mind. And then these similes for the jhanas, or for the four jhanas. So it's a bit long for a morning coffee time stream reading or something, but thought I would share that with people today. For those of you who have not met that before, welcome to it. It's a very important sutta, and I recommend reading the whole thing at some time. And again, for those who are familiar with it, it's not a bad thing to go back and read through that section in particular from time to time. It's so, to me, it's just so clear and concise. That's the life of a practitioner. Sense restraint, contentment, overcoming hindrances, and then going off to deepen and move towards these kind of states of immersion, as Bhante Sujato translates them. So, all right, well, the time is winding on. Let's see, are there any compelling questions? I see a whole lot of discussion about white cloth here. So, we do have white robe postulants in our monasteries, but I don't know how far back that tradition goes. There's no evidence in the suttas that the Buddha had white robe postulants. If one was underage and they were going to come and live with the monks, then they were a novice. If they were of age, meaning roughly 21, then they could ordain as a monk. So they kind of counted their age a little bit differently. I think it's from conception. So 20, 21, they could be a monk. So, but in modern times and in Thailand and in our tradition, we have this kind of convention of people not going straight into taking up the brown robe or the ochre robe, as it's sometimes called, but living for a time as a white robe 8 precept postulant in the monastery. Okay, let's see. Let me go back here. I see a question from Stan that is kind of on topic today. Is this description of sense restraint, it should read, for meditation or for all the time? Really all the time. So one should be judicious about, I can't say that word, judicious about what one gives one's attention to. And again, just underscoring what I said earlier, on the watch for things that will cause one to lose balance or strength of mind, the things that will overwhelm one. Yeah. So if politics gets the blood riled up or something, then you might want to rethink your dedication to engaging with the news around the political sort of scene, if you're also intent on furthering your practice, especially cultivating the jhanas. Like, you need to pull back from the things that overwhelm one, both in the positive dimension, like, that cause undue greed or obsession with positive sense experiences in the world, and also the negative ones that overwhelm one. So we need to care for this mind and steer kind of carefully our attention and what it is that we give our attention to. I think there's something in our culture that tells us we shouldn't be so discerning or discriminating. But the Buddha says we should. If you care about your mind and your spiritual well-being, you should be more discriminating about what it is that you give your attention to. And it's not categorical. It's like one needs to know oneself. And, in practice or in reality, sometimes we have to make compromises. And sometimes we have to get it wrong. So, as we have all kinds of commitments. So, but it is something to really reflect on and give some sort of attention to. These choices matter. So, and I've always been impressed, like part of the reason why people like formal retreats so much is it gives them not just this environment, but permission to practice sense restraint that they wouldn't normally otherwise practice in their home setting or in their everyday routines. And so much of what people actually like about the the fruits of going on retreat is the support for that sort of sense restraint. There is some instruction, there is extra time to kind of put forth effort in your meditation, but sometimes, especially for beginners or people that aren't yet very skilled in meditation, like I would say a huge amount of the time that they're putting effort to try to meditate, they're failing, but at least they're practicing sort of sense restraint. And like over the period of a formal retreat of 5 days, 7 days, 10 days or something, there is an accumulation of the benefits of sense restraint that start accruing to one. And then all of a sudden the meditation starts to click. The mind seems to settle down a bit more. One seems to have more access to a lightness of the heart, to a lightness of the body. Joy and bliss are a little more accessible. The mind moves to wholeness a little bit better. The kind of balance of energy that one needs matures and develops a little easier. So much of that is born of sense restraint, not improved technique. So conditions matter. Environment matters. What it is that we give our time to, who it is that we relate to, what it is that we feed on. All this matters a lot. So, okay, well, I'm going to leave it at that for today. We've gone a bit long today, but I think it's a worthy way to begin the day and a nice thing to sort of check back in on and remind ourselves of. So, be well, everyone, and I'll see you on the morning coffee stream again tomorrow morning. So, have a good day. And we'll see you later. Bye for now.